Alright, welcome back, guys. If you're just tuning in, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat box and I'll get to you as soon as I can. We're going to start talking about some of the amps that I would chase after. And yeah. Alright, so for new Espers, just, just hitting 50 and you have the minimal amount of amp points. This is something I'll talk about the amps, but I would kind of suggest things that you might want to go after. And it's also in my written guide if you want to look there too on WildStar forums. But all right, so first and foremost in the support tree, I would take all of your support tier ones. All right, so that's 3, 6, 9 amp points. Then I would take Inspiration, Spectral Shield, Hard to Hit, which is 4, 8, 12, and 9 is 21 amp points. I would go after cooldowns, 1, 2, and 3. And Mental Overflow, defensive maneuvers to get your fixation. Then the next thing I would do is I'd go after my crit hit, and I'd get Tactician and not snack worthy. Sorry, I don't know why the oh, that's why, because I'm lagging. I was going to say, well, I don't know why the things are not popping up. That would be why, Luke. But yeah, this is more or less what you would use at max amp points, or what I would suggest. Of course, the point I have in Armor Pierce, you can make arguments that you can put it in CC Resilience, and if that's what you want to do, I'm not going to argue with you otherwise. But okay, so I'm going to go through them and talk about them, reasons I took them and reasons I don't like certain apps. Alright, so I went ahead and again took all the tier 1s. Basically all the tier 1s in the support tree is focus recovery increase, support power increase, and reduce focus cost increase. All the things that make healing with the Esper much easier. So I see no reason not to take them. You could make an argument that you could take some of the focus recovery out and put it elsewhere. And that's fine. Focus region is not, or recovery is not a huge stat that we go after anyways. So if you wanted to take a couple of them out, and you were okay with your focus region, I couldn't argue with you there. But to get something else, then by all means, jump on it. Alright, so in the tier 2 support, you have build up. Healing an ally with a builder grants 1 stack of build up. When healing an ally with 3 stacks, you restore an additional 882 health, and the stacks are removed. Now, the reasons I did not go after this amp setup is simply because, well, there's 2 reasons why, mainly, that I don't go after this. One of them is the build-up idea of using builders, spells, on a target. It doesn't always proc a stack. It also doesn't, say for in the example of Soothe, where it heals 5 targets, right? And it is a builder. Well, you have no control over those 5 targets that 1 stack of buildup goes on. So it's very random, and I do not like that for that reason. So don't go after it. That's one reason why I don't go after it. The second reason is honestly, the 882 health extra healing, not that great. I just don't like it. It's not a significant enough amount of healing for me to go after that amp, so I don't take it. The next tier 2 amp that I absolutely do not take, it's terrible now, is Focus Patcher. While below 15% focus, your support finishers generate 50 focus. This can only occur every 15 seconds. No, so again, you know, the Esper Healer class is the least focus intensive of the three healing classes available. Okay, that being the Spell Slinger and the Medic. Now that being said, there's no real honest reason why you should take this amp. One, because it doesn't restore enough focus for you to, you know, make it worthwhile, in my opinion. Uh, Two, I I don't think I can probably count on one hand events where I was under 15% focus to begin with. So I don't see very good uptime of this amp. So highly suggest not taking it. They basically nerfed it a long time ago, uh, and it's just really not that good. Anyway, moving on. The first amp that I did take in the support tree is Inspiration. Landing a basic heal grants healed allies a defense. The defense, which basically does, is it reduces damage taken by 8.5% for 5 seconds. So all in all, a very good healing amp to have. Anytime you can reduce the damage target takes, it's less healing that you have to do. So I see that as a win-win amp, in my opinion. Come on, you stupid tooltips. There we go. Next amp is Spectral Shield. When you critically heal an ally, they gain a 1602 absorption shield. So again, this kind of similar to Inspiration is a win-win in my opinion. Because anytime you can either mitigate or reduce the amount of damage a target takes, in this case by putting a shield on the target, um, the less healing you have to worry about doing on that particular target. So, not too bad of an amp. The next amp that I have is Hard to Hit. Your heals have a 15% chance to grant a defense. Which basically is the effect is it increases deflect chance by 8% for 10 seconds. Again, it's a great, pretty decent heal to have. When it procs, it might be the difference between a target living and dying, because they were, say for example, they're standing in a telegraph. DPS tend to do this a lot. They're standing in a telegraph, kind of zoning out on their rotation and whatnot, trying to do the maximum damage, but not paying attention to boss mechanics. Well, if this amp happens to proc on them because you healing the crap out of them, maybe they deflect one of those hits and live. So I like to take it. It's a good amp to have, in my opinion. Alright, so that basically covers the support ones. I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about these. Obviously, if you took my Mirage build, you want to take Mirage amp. Healing Touch. Whenever you use this support finisher on a ally below 60% health, you heal an additional 1876 health. This can only occur every 4 seconds. Now this received a change. It used to be the target had to be 30% health below, and I believe the health it restored was a lot more. Plus the frequency at which it could occur is a lot less. Even with those changes, after doing some discussion on the forums under my guide, I think Thrills pointed it out, was that it very rarely procs. So it's not going to be a lot of your healing if you run WildStar logs and or your guild does, and you can kind of see that it doesn't do a whole lot for the amount of points that you have to invest in it to get it. So I don't, and I do agree with Thrills on this, that it's not a very good amp for the amount of points you use. You can definitely use the points elsewhere. Uh, Last support amp is Companion. When healing, you have a 20% chance to summon a companion. It restores 717 health per second and lasts for 10 seconds. This can only occur every 10 seconds. So, the biggest problem with this amp that most people have is that, yeah, it's cool looking animation. You know, it spawns this carrot and he runs over and he's like chasing you and stuff. But the biggest problem this amp has is that it's unreliable, similar to build up amp, as far as what target it heals. Okay, so you know, as much as you'd like to see it on the tank, say for example, it doesn't always go on the tank. It might go to a DPS. It might just hang out with you and heal you, even though you don't need it at the time. So it's a little unfortunate that it's works that way. So it does need a lot of work in order to make it usable. Plus, the added power cost is somewhat high. So, investing 6 AM points into this ability, in my opinion, it's just not worth it. No. Anyway, yeah, that's covers the support amps. I'm going to talk a little bit about the hybrid assault support tree real quick. I, of course, took crit 1, 2, and 3, and I took the crit hit severity. And I got, come on, not snack worthy. Now, this is a different change coming in Shop 4. Not snack worthy now when you pop your innate spectral form. Okay, and I again forgot to talk about it. Basically, what it does is it grants you an absorb, right? It generates 1 side point every second for 5 seconds. So if you did nothing else, you would get 5 side points just from popping spectral form. And the 5 side points isn't instantly. It's 1 side point every second for 5 seconds. But by taking this amp, not snack worthy, it adds a bonus to your innate every time you use it. Increases your assault and support power by 10% for 5 seconds. So pretty sweet amp. I would highly suggest getting it. Next one is Tactician. Tactician is standing still for 2.5 seconds, grants an Empower and a Bastion. The Empower increases magic damage dealt by 4%, and the Bastion increases outgoing healing by 4%. So, all in all, a added benefit to your healing, provided you can stand still. So, not too shabby. It's not a super awesome ability, but any additive healing that we can get is always a plus, as well as the magic damage you deal, which, for Espers is predominantly every ability does magic damage. So, aside from the support abilities, there is Pyro, Kinetic Flame, of course, but that's an exception. Alright, so I'm going to talk a little bit about, again, the couple amps that I didn't take and why I didn't take them. If I can get the tooltips to work. Uh-oh. My crash, guys. Hope not, but it's going crazy. Ah, there it goes. Well, sorry about that, guys. Alright, so no pain, no dot dot dot. Taking damage has a 10% chance to generate a side point. Now, as a healer, you don't really want to be taking damage for several reasons. One, because we wear light armor, so purposely standing in telegraphs or whatnot is not something I would suggest just to see uptime from this ability. Also, the chance is very low, so it's honestly it's not all that great um, of a spell, or excuse me, of an amp to use. So I would discourage you from going after this amp for those reasons stated. Okay, next one is. All right, come on now. There it goes. Sorry about that. Is refund. Whenever a finisher is deflected, you gain 3 side points. Can only occur every 5 seconds. Again, the only finisher you should be using as an Esper, healing Esper, is Reverie. So you don't have to really worry about that being deflected. Um, well, again, that would not be an amp I'd go after. Fisticuffs, taking damage from foe grants a defense, which increases all resistances by 6% for 5 seconds. It's a survivability amp, but not worth the amount of amp points you have to uh, put in to get it. So, not worth taking. Now, Bingo is interesting, and I'm sure there's a couple espers out there that probably do use it. What it does is landing a critical hit with a builder has a 100% chance to generate 1 side point. This can only occur every 5 seconds. Now, there's only really one major issue I have with this now, and that being that the amount of side points that you generate is unpredictable as a result of taking this amp. It's not a bad amp, okay, but it's not a great amp either. In my opinion, it just complicates some of the burst combos. I'll talk about a little later in tips of the trade um, that you can do. So, anyway, that covers hybrid assault tree. I'll talk about utility real quick. Of course, took all the cooldown reductions. Not because a lot of our abilities have cooldowns, other than our interrupts. Well, and Phantasmal Armor would be an exception because it does have a somewhat longer cooldown. Um, so I took all those. I went after Mental Overflow. A lot of people didn't like this ability for a while due to the fact that people could take your side point orbs in the raids. But I still see a very good use for it, especially as a healer, because it allows you to, after you get to max, well, let me explain what it does. When you would gain a side point, while at full side points, 5 side points, a side point orb spawns in your location and lasts for 5 seconds. Stacks 3 times. So, in the event that you're at full side points and you're waiting to heal something, and you do finally heal it, while you're using your other spells, at full side points, you'll spawn these orbs to the left of you. So it allows basically for you to pull up to 8 side points, essentially, once you reach max. So after you use your finisher, you could slide to your left a little bit and instantly pick up 3 side points. Also allows for more burst healing, basically. So it's not a bad amp, and as opposed to some of these other amps, I just feel more comfortable with Mental Overflow, to tell you the truth. Uh, Next one I pick up is Defensive Maneuvers. Dashing grants defense, which is damage mitigation is increased by 6% for 5 seconds. Every time you dash, added mitigation, so it's not too bad. And considering we took dash regen, so that our dash charges come up faster, it synergizes well with that amp, as well as Tactician. When you do have to, whenever you do stand still, say a telegraph pops up and you have to dash out of it, well, you have that option. So those are my reasons for taking that amp. Now, a couple amps in tier 2 that I've seen a couple people take, and I'm going to talk about them real briefly and try to, I guess, hash out some things. But inspirational charge, landing a finisher grants an power. All right, so what that basically does is that the cast time of your telekinetic strike and mind over body are reduced by 0.25 seconds for 5 seconds. This can only occur every 15 seconds. Now, I realize I have not talked about mind over body now, but I'm going to take that moment to do so right now. Mind over body is a single targeted ability, okay? And so it heals for a certain amount on the target that you targeted. So the healing it does, right? Okay, just to give you an idea, when it's comparable to bolster base, we're just going to make it an even playing ground. All right, it's a 1.5 second cast. It costs 22 focus, and it's targeted. Okay, that's what mind over body does. Heals at my current support power 3,096 health. Bolster, or excuse me, soothe, base, just base. Charge 1 costs 13 focus, heals for 2858 in its instant. Alright, so you could just spam the soothe button and almost do as much healing as mind over body, plus reduce the focus cost, plus restore health to yourself and 5 other allies. So it doesn't take a mathematician to figure out that soothe is better than mind over body in almost nearly every situation. So, yeah, it's just one of those things where this amp, and what I was getting at was by saying all that, this amp, inspirational charge, whenever the tool top comes back up, the only time you would ever see honest usage of this is when, you know, you're using mind over body. And if you're not using mind over body, you see no usage of this amp. So I would kind of highly discourage you from using this amp. So that's my reasoning for not taking that. Now, a lot of people will be like, no, I take this amp because I use mind over body. Well, I can tell you that in most situations, you will get more healing out of using Soothe than mind over body. Okay, and I just proved that earlier. All right, so moving on. Next tooltip. Sorry, guys, I'm lagging a little bit, so it's taking me a lot longer to go through these amps than I wanted to. Iron reflexes. When you are CC'd, you gain a defense. Increase armor by 35% for 5 seconds. This can only occur every 15 seconds. So the only reason you would ever really honestly take this amp is if you're running a CC break, or excuse me, actually PvP wouldn't be too bad to run it in, but you know, since we're talking strictly PvE here, it's not really all that great of a amp to take. Okay. Molasses, being CC grants an absorption effect that lasts for 5 seconds and absorbs 1620 damage. This can only occur every 10 seconds. Now again, these two amps are not too bad for PvP, seeing that this is mainly a PvE type of guide for raiding and dungeons, etc., group content. I would discourage you from taking those two amps. Okay. Next amp that I did take is so I could have fixation available to use on my bar, which I use in every build at this point, because it is a very strong ability. Not many other healers can tell you that they have the ability to, if I can get the stupid thing to pop up. Yeah, it's just being difficult. But basically it's fixation you have to take that amp to be able to use fixation on your bars and your limited action sets. So, thank you, good God. All right, so feedback. When your shields become depleted, you apply a 60% snare to 5 foes within 5 meters for 10 seconds. This can only occur every 30 seconds. Again, this is more towards a PvP side, um, more so than PvE. I suppose you could use it in questing if you really want, but for the amount of points that you do put in for it, again, it's not really honestly what I would suggest using. Cheat death. Upon dying, enter an immobile spirit form, which allows you to continue casting spells for 6 seconds. This is more or less like the priest equivalent from WoW. When you die, you turned into that big angel and you could still cast spells. You couldn't move around or anything, but you could just still cast spells for a few seconds. Uh, it's not a bad amp. It's just not a great amp for the amount of, again, amp points that you have to invest in it. So, again, there are other places where you can put your amps that will provide either more mitigation, more utility. And I would highly suggest going after those rather than one of these up here. So, uh, like I said, my remaining points I put into dash region and shield capacity just for added survivability. Uh, and okay, so I had 54 or 55 points left over. And like I said at the beginning, I believe, I put it in armor pierce, but feel free if you feel CC resilience will be better for you. Throw on that last point there. Uh, but yeah, that basically covers my amp setup. And again, I already have a written guide set up on Wildstar forums. So if you want to see and you're a new Esper or whatnot, new 50 Esper with 45 amp points, I have a setup of what you should go after there on the website, on the forums there. So go check that out. I also have a 55 point amp setup. I believe I set it to 54, so that that last point, as I said, can go either armor pierce, I would suggest, uh, or CC resilience. So anyway, give me a few minutes and we'll cover our last little topic. And yeah, hopefully we'll learn a little bit more. Thanks, guys.